Hello and welcome to this episode of the SpeechGoods podcast. Thank you so much for being here. And today is going to be a super interesting interview with Amanda. Amanda is actually going to be the first guest on the SpeechGoods podcast to tell her about her journey with getting the public student loan forgiveness. I've talked about this public student loan forgiveness before on my Instagram and on the podcast and YouTube channel, but it's going to be great to have someone who's actually navigated this and been able to get her loans forgiven. So if this is something you're interested in, be sure that you listen to the interview so that we can see how Amanda's journey went. So Amanda is a speech language pathologist working in Texas. She has experience in the school systems, ECI programs, and outpatient clinics. She currently runs a private practice where she provides contract services to schools. She does public speaking engagements, provides tele-therapy services in Texas, and professional consultation services. Amanda also is the author of a speech and language resources and interactive book series. Her hope is that her original materials will help busy SLPs build a library of effective materials. Amanda is married with 3 sons and a beautiful Boston Terrier named Fannie. Okay, I'm not going to keep you too much longer before we get to this interview, but seriously, even outside of the student loan forgiveness topic, everything that we talked about was just amazing. Amanda's story about getting through school and getting through school as a single mom, I was literally just like, my jaw was dropping throughout the entire story. She talks about just her non-traditional route through grad school and how she not only went through grad school as a single mom, but she worked as a social worker while raising her baby girl while going to grad school. Like, seriously, if the term host doesn't come to your mind, I don't know what would. Okay. All right. So let's get to the interview with Amanda. Hello, Amanda. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yes. Well, so excited to have not only a fellow SLP, but a fellow curly-haired SLP. Like, there's just like an unspoken respect there.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Well, so excited to have you. We just heard your bio. You've clearly done so many things and not in the easiest manners either. You've definitely had just these amazing accomplishments in your life, and you just kind of done the dang thing. Even when it was hard to do the dang thing, which is a big part of why I wanted to have you on the podcast. So, you've got your private practice, you've got this online business creating products. Thank God for people like you, because I could not, my TPT store would be the most sad, boring thing. That's why I don't have a TPT store or create any kind of cute products. But just so excited to have you here. And I promise I'm going to stop talking. So tell us a little bit about what makes you and your SLP journey unique.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. And I like to share my story because it wasn't the traditional path or journey that most people have. I am a first-generation college student, so I had to navigate that whole world, financial aid, getting loans, all of that by myself. My parents were great, but they just, weren't able to help me. But then I got married super young and divorced super young, and I had a baby when I graduated with my bachelor's. I was 9 months pregnant, waddling across that stage. And then 2 months later, started grad school with a 2-month-old all by myself. So that made things quite difficult. So I had to do things part-time. I wasn't able to go to school full-time and support my baby. So during my first 3 years of grad school, I actually became a social worker, and I worked for Child Protective Services, which was super difficult as well. But, when people always ask me, how did you do that? I just did it. I just made a goal in my mind that I'm going to be a speech pathologist and I'm going to keep going. And I even had a professor that I had issues with who told me to settle with being an SLPA because I will never survive graduate school with an infant. And I showed him. So yeah.
Yes. Okay. This is just a random observation. When I have people come on this show and tell me that there was that one person who told them they wouldn't make it to grad school, it is always a male professor.
Huh.
You are the third person.
Well, he really discouraged me. And I had my mentor in the program. We had one of our professors would mentor us. And I went straight to her office, like crying, and she was pumped me up, and it was hard. But I would never want someone to think they couldn't do what they wanted to do, because it is possible. You just have to find a program that will work with you. My program was awesome. They let me do school part-time, and at that time it was only night classes, so I would work during the day and then I would go to school at night. I had the most amazing private nanny who helped me with my son. And I owe her the world, because she was great. She watched him while I worked. She watched him while I was at night school. And my bosses at CPS, they actually allowed me to stay home in the morning with my baby and then document at night. So I didn't miss out so much time with him. So it was just, I've made it work. I figured things out. I told my story and, found a solution to, managing it all.
So a lot of those like adaptations and, ways that you were like able to make it work, like staying home in the morning with your baby, were those things that you felt like you had to initiate those conversations with people and with your bosses?
Oh yeah, because typically, bosses and like grad programs, they don't want to be flexible. Here's your schedule. Here's what you need to do. But I advocated so much. But I also give 110% in anything I do. And I think that after I started at my job and started in the program, they saw that. So, I did have one professor for CPS. They had to send me to a different town for 2 weeks for an in-class training. So I had to take my baby all alone. We stayed in a hotel for 2 weeks. I found a daycare there that would take him. And one of my professors was trying to fail me. So I went to the dean of the university and explained my situation, and everything was fine. So I had to do so much self-advocating. It was tiring, to be honest. It was really tiring.
Yeah. So you learned to self-advocate before you even got into the field, like before you even started working as an SLP. Cause it's like,
oh yeah.
Like, and I feel like your situation was so like you literally didn't have a choice but to advocate for yourself. If you wanted to meet your goals, if you would have just sat back and taken no for an answer or whatever, then I mean, you wouldn't be where you are today.
Yeah. And, I had to make a choice. I grew up, in poverty and on welfare. My parents tried their hardest. They were loving parents. And, but I didn't want to be on welfare. So that's why I got the job. I probably could have qualified as a single mom. But I wanted to get a career and support my child on my own. I wanted to do that because, seeing my parents struggle and just really trying to give us everything, but not being able to, it really inspired me to, make a difference for my life. And so that's kind of why I think I was so driven to do all of that.
I think that there needs to be like a Lifetime movie made about like the first like your time in grad school. I think that would make a really good Lifetime movie. What do you think?
Yes. Well, I've been lunged at by crackheads. I've had to, reunite children, take away children as a social worker, all of that. Obviously it opened my eyes to the reality of the world and to what some of the kids that we serve go through. But just those experiences, yes, they could be a really great movie. But I was going to tell you, on top of all of that, when my son was 3, so I'm still in grad school, he actually was diagnosed with autism, and sensory processing was our major issue. And we started OT, horse therapy, speech, all of that. So juggling CPS, grad school, and now I'm taking my kid to like 3 different therapies a week. So that was kind of on top of that. But luckily I met the most amazing man when my son was 3, and I ended up marrying him. And so I did eventually get an amazing support system. It just kind of took a bit, but
I mean, it took 3 years.
Yeah.
Of you just like drudging by yourself. And you were in, how long did it take for you to complete grad school since you were going part-time?
It took me almost 4 years. And it's a 2-year program.
Got you. Okay. So your kiddo was like 4, almost 5 years old by the time that you finished graduate
yes.
school.
I
And
love to share the picture of me 9 months pregnant, getting my bachelor's, and then holding him at 4, getting my master's. It's so cute.
oh, oh, I love that. I love that. Okay. Lifetime movie. We're submitting the request. We're going to email some producer over there and tell them he needs to make a movie. Wow. So how, like, how does that change your perspective, especially just with now? I mean, you're working with kids, like you have a perspective that a lot of us, like, I don't, I mean, I can empathize, but like, I do not have that perspective. Like, I know that kids get taken from their homes. I know that there's kids in poverty. Like, I work with kids in those situations, but like to actually like have to take a child from their home, or even going through the therapy process as a parent, how do you feel that's changed how you just operate in your daily life working with your patient? Or not, a lot of school-based people don't call them patients. Y'all call them clients or kiddos. Always forget.
Students.
Students, that's what it is.
I think, working through CPS and being a social worker, I have a lot less judgment for parents and what they're going through. A lot of parents are struggling with domestic violence, drug use, or just family issues, all kinds of things that you don't even know, that they probably would never even tell you. And so sometimes if they're not showing up for meetings or sending back homework or permission slips, just give them a little grace, because you don't know what's going on at their house. Another thing, being a mom struggling to take her son to all of these therapies that he needed. We even actually had to start behavioral counseling with a psychologist when he was 4. So it was really difficult. And I will tell you, those moms that come to your clinic, or you have them in an IEP meeting that just burst in tears, really for no reason. That was me. I cried all the time at the OT appointments, at the psychologist appointment, because it was so hard. And not that it was hard having a son with autism, but it was just hard managing it all at once. And then he had stepbrothers, so I was worried about them. Am I giving too much attention to my autistic son? Am I giving enough attention to all of them? All of these things as a young mother, it was hard. So now I just have more patience for parents, and I don't judge them. Like I said, it's like, it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's part of those clinical skills that like you can't teach anyone necessarily, but it is, yeah, just that ability. And my husband and I, we do not have children yet, but I can just see, like, when I'm scheduling with patients, like I have one mom has 5 kids, homeschools them all, and lives like an hour away from my office. So like I was willing to meet them at a library, so it was a little bit closer to them, which you can do that in private practice because it's
right.
You're the boss. And just like this mom was like so committed, like for helping her kid, like with reading. I mean, it was a whole thing, and like and trying to even figure out like scheduling times. I just was like, how in my mind, I was like, you are like amazing. Like, how do you keep all of these appointments in your I was like, how do you keep all this straight? And then then you're just trying to be like a good mom, and you're trying to attend to your kids. And yeah, I think that's super insightful. And I think that's super important for us to recognize that like, there's just so many things that we don't know about. We have no idea.
Right. Well, and another thing is some of the therapists would prescribe like home activities or homework. And one of my son, he was attending a social group one time, and they were like, you need to have a play date once a week with other kids. No, I can't fit that in my week. So sorry, you have to be realistic of what you expect out of these families, that what it's going to be something they actually can do, but saying a play date once a week, when my son, he didn't have any friends. Who am I, so am I going to invite kids he doesn't talk to over, like, how am I going to make this work? So just stuff like that, like being really conscious as a therapist on what I am expecting of the parents.
Can you think back and give like a specific example of when, like, because I know in my head, I kind of conceptualize like, okay, in a perfect world, we'd be doing this in my head. In a perfect world, like you'd be doing this at home, but in real life, I'm probably going to give you this just because I know it's something that you can do that's like easy and digestible for you in the way that your life is going. Can you give some a specific example?
Let me think about that. Like something his therapist or told me, or something that I would.
Maybe something that you've told a parent. So like when you
Okay.
kind of like adapted things or like reduced, I hate to say reduced expectations because it's not like you're like, oh, I'm lowering my expectations. Like it's not like that, but where you've maybe kind of reduced homework or reduced kind of what you were giving them because you knew that it just wasn't doable for them.
Well, yeah. I mean, working as the only SLP in a district, I would give these elaborate like Christmas break homework. And if you brought it back signed, I'll, have a prize for you. And out of 66 kids, like one would bring it back. That's not realistic. So I would just send quick things and say, put it up on your fridge, try to think about it a little bit, at least. And then I'd always say, at least just try to read with your kids every night if that's a possibility. I just gave simple things.
Mm-hmm.
Even after watching a movie, asking questions, talking about what you liked about it, describing it, just stuff like that, instead of these structured calendars with tasks to do every day that they have to remember and sign and bring back. Because most of my kids, they're going to lose that. It may never even make it out of the backpack because it gets crumpled up,
and like shoved at the bottom. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. So I just try to be conscious of that, and especially, moms and dads who have tons of kids. It's almost impossible to keep up with it all. I have 3 and I feel like that's overwhelming.
I have a dog and I'm already like, like, so gotta help any children that we have. Like, so we've kind of talked a little bit about like where you started out, like grad school, how you went through that whole journey, just like doing the dang thing and not taking no for an answer, advocating for yourself. Tell us a little bit about where you are right now. Like, I know you've got like an online business deal, you got your private, like, tell us a little bit about what's going on with is it Panda Speech Therapy, correct? Or Panda Speech?
It's Panda Speech, but my private practice is Panda Speech and Language Services. So I mean, either way, it's fine.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So tell us more.
Well, okay. So right now I have my private practice and I primarily do contracts with school districts. I do have a few teletherapy sessions here and there. And then I'm also a content creator for a teletherapy company. So I create content for their platform. So that's another job. And then I have my TPT store. So I kind of do a lot. But as far as like seeing students, I see students at 7 private schools for our local public school district here in the town I live in. And I really like it. It's a big change from being the only SLP in a district with 66 kids on my caseload. So I'm really liking the new stuff, and I'm actually expanding, and I'm hoping to have a couple SLPs working with me soon. The kind of goal is for like next August to have like a team to do these contracts. So we'll see.
Awesome. So you're trying to like, you're maybe wanting to get a couple more schools like for next school year, pretty much.
Yes. And I also do like public speaking. I travel to small districts and train their SLPs on caseload management, evaluations, therapy, anything like that. So I also do that here and there.
So how can you tell us a little bit more about that? I find that's something that a lot of SLPs are interested in, but don't really know how to like do. Like even for myself, like the only ones that I have ever met personally that are doing that I've actually gotten to have a conversation with, they've been well established in the district for years. So like they've worked in the same district for 20 years. But not everybody necessarily is going to take that route. So can you tell us a little bit about how you started doing like the speaking and the teaching and all the cool things?
Yeah. So, my area of Texas, I live in the Panhandle. It's real small, and there's tons of tiny districts. There's really no mega districts up here. I mean, the school district here in the biggest town right in the middle is large, but it's still not like Dallas or Houston size, nothing like that. And I've worked in this area for a long time, and I was a officer on the Panhandle Regional Speech and Hearing Association. I've just kind of had my name out there in this area for a while. One of the biggest things with my trainings is that Texas is auditing every school district, every single one. So, and they're auditing special education files for many different things, but every district will go through that. My district that I worked for was one of the first. So I went through this whole audit experience. And so I have some valuable insight on that. So a couple of the school districts that are in the second and third cycles of this heard about kind of like, our district going through that, and they reached out to me because they said there were some documentation issues within their district because most of their SLPs are contracted from like clinics, so they didn't really know what was going on with school like laws and policies and the way we have to write IEPs. So that is kind of how I was kind of approached to do this based on just kind of word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my advice for people who would like to do this is, get on district websites and email I have a one-pager that lists everything I do, all my contract services, my public speaking, my topics, my trainings. I was a IEP case manager and administrator for years at my district. So I list that and just send it to special ed directors in your area and just say, contact me if you're ever in need of any of my services. Because I've done that a few times myself. So I guess that'd be my best advice if you're trying to like start this cold.
No, I love that. I love that. I think a lot of us, we've spent time like gaining this knowledge, whether it's like something you intentionally sought out by going to trainings, or even for you where like some of it just kind of like with the auditing thing, like that's just something like an experience that you had that you weren't like seeking out, but an experience that was very valuable. And
right.
Recognizing it, like I'll do this sometimes when I have one-on-one sessions with SLPs and like, well, it's like a pick your brain session. I'll hear them say these things, like these skills that they have, that it's like, that's a skill. Like, you could actually like monetize that and get paid for that. Right. So I love that you recognize that you had valuable information. And then you weren't just like, oh, and I'm very curious to hear your input on this. Like, were you ever tempted? Because I see this a lot in the SLP space to just like give it all away for free, or like, did you start monetizing that in the beginning?
Not that part of my, I guess, my knowledge. I will tell you, I do have some things coming, in the future that will possibly, be in a value to speech therapists in the school districts in this realm. But I do offer like free checklists and like evaluation checklists, like first of year checklists, stuff like that to help people who are going through these type of things. And I like to give that away just as my way to give back to the SLP community. I was the only SLP, like I said, for 11 years in this school, and I felt so alone, and I wish there was somebody to help me. So I just kind of had to figure it all out myself. And that audit wasn't the first audit I went through. My first year as a CF, I was contracted to a school, tiny, tiny little school, 45 minutes away, and they were audited. And the auditor said, I'm going to need to see your evidence of provision of services. Like, I don't have anything called that. So I went back and freaked out. And my boss was like, your logs, Mandy, that's what that is. I'm like, oh, okay, I have logs. But what I did, because nobody taught me, is I made a list of every kid I saw, the times, what goals we did, the data. And I showed the auditor, he's like, I can't see that. You have all the kids' name on there. You have to have one log for each kid. And I was like, So I had to redo all my logs for 6 months and get them like within 2 days to this auditor. It was so stressful, but now I know, and I actually create logs that I sell based on that experiences for speech school-based therapists. So if you ever needed to show your evidence of provision of services, you have a perfect form, exactly what an auditor would like. So
I did not know that.
yeah, I'm like, why didn't anyone tell me that's what that was called? Because I've never heard that phrase before in my life.
Well, because like I find when people name things sometimes they're like, let's make this sound as complicated and scary as possible.
Yeah.
Like
I was like, I have nothing that says that, phrase, those words.
no, like what is that? It sounds like it almost like anything that sounds like more legalese, like I'm automatically like, zoop, like what's going on?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The panic. I think I probably cried. I was a CF. I was a tired mother. I probably went back and just cried.
I'm not a CF. I'm not a tired mother, and I probably would have cried. I'll put it that way. Because then, were you also expected to see your students at those same times, or did?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Oh wow! Oh my goodness! You're just like you're scrappy, Amanda. Have you ever been told that before?
No, not scrappy. My husband would say I am full of attitude, but I've never been told I'm scrappy.
Like you're definitely like scrappy is what comes to mind. Very, very scrappy. Not the Scooby-Doo dog, but like the attitude.
Well, yes. I feel like I have become a little bit more scrappier now that I am kind of my own person, like, not working for anyone else. Because when I was working at the school district, I used to always feel worried that I was making someone mad or someone was going to be disappointing me. I wasn't working hard enough or, all that stuff that SLPs feel, when really I was a freaking good employee. They were lucky to have me, and I should have felt that way back then. I mean, I always give 110%, and I did then, I do now. But now, like, I used to be afraid of teachers like bothering them, like, I'm so sorry to interrupt, I need so and so. But now at these private schools, I'm like, hi, I'm here. Yep. And I just grab the kid and go. I have it's so crazy how I don't worry about that stuff anymore. And as SLPs, yes, we should be courteous, but this is our job. These kids are, get these legal mandated services. I don't care if it inconvenienced you for 2 seconds, but I used to worry about that so much. And so now I feel like, yeah, a little bit more scrappier.
And do you feel that going from that transition of like, because I was talking to Debbie from SLP Resume yesterday, and I was telling her I'm a recovering people pleaser, and so I'm wondering that was like the phrase when you're talking about I'm a recovering people pleaser, and would you say that going from like that like, oh like hi, like can I come pick up little Bobby for speech to hey I'm here you
Bobby, let's go.
Exactly, like Bobby.
Yeah.
Let out. Like, do you feel having your own business is what helped you get there, or what do you feel helped you get to that point in that attitude?
Well, I would say a lot of things kind of helped me. My husband, he's always been the one that's like, Mandy, why are you volunteering for that? Why are you're doing too much? You're going to have a meltdown. Because I was a chronic volunteer. I was our fundraising chair for Boy Scouts. I took a $5,000 a year thing to $42,000 a year for selling popcorn. I was like, I don't know what they were doing before me. Anyways,
love it.
And I volunteered for our local association. I was, I coached every single one of my sons' baseball, soccer, t-ball when he was little. I had to be the coach because the coaches weren't organized. Every parent got a diagram of the baseball diamond and what each position did. We made I was so organized. And then I'm also a coach for Special Olympics. I coach swimming and track. Anyways, and I'm on the tennis association, but my husband's like, Mandy, you are driving yourself into the ground with doing all of this. I know you love to help the community and you love doing all that, but you've got to take a step back. So about 5 years ago, I had a couple big meltdowns, I really did. And it made me kind of reevaluate. I'm not going to say yes to everything. Like if a principal asked me to, coordinate reading night, no, I can't do that. But before, I'd always say, sure, because I'm good at stuff. I know that's my skill set. I can organize and plan an event like nobody else. But I think just, having the encouragement from him. And then when you go through a meltdown, typically related to anxiety and stuff like that, that's an eye opener. I thought I was dying. I was in the, urgent care thinking I was having a heart attack, but it was an anxiety attack. So when that happened to me, I was like, okay, so I'm not having a heart attack. This is all, I've done this all to myself. Wow.
Wow. Okay. So you had to you actually had a physical moment and a physical reaction, and you were finally just I'm literally taking years off my life with how stressed out I'm making myself. And you just decided you decided you were just going to start saying no.
Well, and I talk about this a lot on my Instagram. If you don't follow me there, I do a lot of funny videos and reels, but honestly, my mission is kind of tell you, don't let your job overtake your life. So many SLPs say I have so many hours of work at home. I stay way past my contracted hours. I think it was 3 years ago, I stopped all that. I was like, nope, I'm here to do my job. And when it's time to go, I'm leaving. Obviously there's exceptions, but I didn't make that a habit. And guess what? I would like to tell everyone it all still got done. And I was a lot happier, and my family got, more quality time with me. So I think that's a huge thing that I am trying to inspire other SLPs. You are not paid to spend 3 hours of your own time to write that report. You're not. Now, if there's a deadline, yeah, you may have to do it every once in a while. But I think it's just the culture that I'm hearing right now is being overworked. It can be a choice. I know I'm getting a lot of hate for saying that, but I just made the choice, and I had 66 kids all by myself on my caseload. I know there's people with double that, but it's not on you, it's on your district if they're not providing adequate staff. So do what you can, document when you can't, and then you'll have a nice trail. And it won't fall on you. It's my best advice for that.
That's especially the point that you made about documenting when you can't, because caseloads caseload sizes are a serious issue in the field. And you're so right. That is not on us. That is on the school district to supply you with what you need to be able to see these kids. And that's a great, I never thought about that, but documenting, or even documenting, if you making sure that you're communicating that if there's a head SLP that's above you, or your principal, communicating that, hey, I need help, this is too much of a caseload, or blah, blah, blah. I know ASHA has some resources about caseload numbers and things, and documenting that you spoke with them.
Yes.
That way.
This is my my thing I do. Anytime I have a conversation about anything like this, or when I used to, I would follow up with an email and say something like, just to recap our conversation we had today, blah, 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 blah. And I know people knew that's what I was doing. That's fine. But I wanted the documentation trail for my own protection, because I can't do it all. I absolutely, in SLPs with over 100 kids, that is unmanageable. You can't do it. Ask for help repeatedly. And then if something doesn't happen and the school district gets into a bind, you'll have a trail that says, oh, well, I asked. I sure did,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cause you're right. I'm sure these SLPs that are working, they're so stressed out. I'm sure you're working very hard. It's not a question of well, you're just being lazy, but it's
right.
Your job is literally not meant to, that job that they're trying to ask you to do of seeing 100 kids or whatever within, whatever, 7:30 to 2:45 is literally impossible. That job is not meant to be done by one person in that amount of time. And unless we say something about it.
Right. And another thing, they, at one point, they were like, we're going to have all IEP meetings after school. And I said, I can't do that. I have to pick up my children from their school and it would make me late. Sorry, can't do it. And then that's all I said. I cannot do it. It's not possible for my family. I can't stay after contract hours to do meetings. And I hear people saying, oh, we have no choice. Yes, you do. Tell him, I can't do that. Your family comes first. I mean, I just flat out said it, and I never was fired. I was still there. Anyways.
Right. Like, so did they ever respond when you just said, I'm sorry, I can't do that, I have to pick up my kids? Did they ever say anything? No?
No. Nope. And now every once in a while, if it happens, I was okay with it. And I was a team player. I don't want people to think I wasn't a team player. Like, actually the school SLP that I started contracting for, I think she quit because they made her do like bus and recess duty. She was like, not doing it. I didn't do it because I documented that I needed those times for speech sessions. And I just prepared a nice little document, showed the principals, and they were like, oh, okay, you got to see kids. That's fine. So they would make me do like lunch duty during state testing, whatever, just little things. But that was all right. You just have to, I guess it's my advocating just coming straight through. Like I never stop. I'm like, oh no. And just having the documentation. So if they're making you do lunch duty every day and you're missing out on sessions, or you're having to cram kids, 5 or 6 to make that work, write up something showing that your schedule needs that time. Mm-hmm. That's just what I did. I guess some people are intimidated to do these things, but I became bolder as I went through the years. My first several years, I kind of just, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, whatever, I'll do it. But then I got to a point where, I just started, that's not my job. Wait, what?
Right, you're right. And oh man, so like now that we're on the topic of advocating, because you and I chatted about this a little bit before we hit record for this episode, can you tell everyone the story of how you got your school? It was like the school you worked for to match was it your clinic salary? Is that what it was?
Yes. So I worked for a private clinic that was not a nonprofit that contracted me to schools. Well, the schools tried to hire me several times, but honestly, I couldn't take the pay cut. So I was like, nope. So I think it was like the third time they pulled me in to talk about, hiring. It was a new superintendent, and he said, here's what I'm going to offer you. And we literally slid pieces of paper across the table. It was like the most amazing experience of my life. It felt like I was in a movie, and it was weird. So anyways, so he said, I'll offer you a teachers with a master's, that extra boost. And I said, what? Well, sir, that's insulting. He was like, what? I said, well, it's insulting because there's nothing wrong with the teachers with a master's, but I am not that. And my program, like a teacher's master's is typically 35 hours, and an SLP master's is typically 65, 66 hours, plus 400 hours of clinical practicum. And when we graduate, we have to do over 1,200 hours of a clinical fellowship. After that, I get licensed and certified. I can diagnose and treat and bill Medicaid. Teachers with masters cannot do any of that. So he was like, wow, it's like almost like he didn't really know. And so then I slid a number on on my little paper back to him, and they accepted it. It was amazing. I was like, well, all right, you have the deal, sir.
So I love how you give, and that's if you haven't taken this away from everything that Minnie's saying, notice that when she advocates for herself, you're very specific. Like, it's not just like, you should pay me more because I'm a speech pathologist. Like, nobody's gonna respond to that, right? Like, people are just gonna be like, okay, why? You need to give them a why. And you literally listed and I love how you compared the teacher's master's program to the speech master's program, and what, we all know, pay why, and this is not me dogging teachers, but we know there is a difference between our masters and a teacher's master's. Okay, it just same way there's a difference between our masters and someone who goes to medical school. It's just different things. And I love how you gave specifics. It wasn't, you weren't coming in there with this attitude of entitlement or you owe me. You came in with a very objective argument. And I think sometimes, especially in the SLP space, when we're talking about these things, we can get very emotional about them because we're coming at this from and I say this all the time, money is a very emotional topic. but yet it is the most objective, one of the most objective things that you're going to deal with, right? Or like if you're being overworked with your overworked caseload, like the stress and anxiety and everything that you're feeling, like that is a real thing and real emotion. But when you're going to the table to advocate for yourself, you need to have, like, the superintendent probably really doesn't care how you feel, honestly. Like, he probably really doesn't. Like, I'm sure, I mean, or I shouldn't say he, maybe it's a woman superintendent, but like,
Sure.
they want to know, like, if you're trying to get money from someone, they want to know why I should be paying you more. Or if you're trying to get them to hire someone else to help you, why should I? Tell me why. And just because you're stressed out, a lot of times is not a good enough reason. But it's why you are stressed out. Like, that's not saying that, oh, you just need to get over it. No. You're stressed out for a reason, but you need to tell them, like, the objective data as to why that is. And like, that's what I've been kind of getting from you this whole time, is every time, like, you went in with like this, and this, and then you were cool and slid your little piece of paper across the table.
That was the best part. That was the best. I mean, it was just so fun. Now, I'm not going to lie and say when I left, I wasn't sweating profusely, because I was, and I kind of had like in my car, like, oh, but because it's not easy. That kind of, those meetings with higher ups, they're intimidating. But you just kind of have to psych yourself up for it. You got to do it. And then, I've heard of SLPs doing this and getting rejected. Well, okay, try again the next year, I don't know what else to say, or leave if you can. And I just find it so sad that some speech therapists are stuck on like getting paid the same as a teacher, and they have no choice to leave. It just makes me sad, and like you said, nothing against a teacher, but it's just so different. What we do is so different, and we have different qualifications. And I would never personally accept a teacher's salary for my job. I wouldn't. And there are people out there that just don't have a choice. And I hope that, if following me or listening to, podcasts like this, that they will feel more empowered to try to advocate, at least try.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And a lot of people, I think, as humans, we tend to avoid discomfort. Yes. And especially if you are not a confrontational person, which I'm going to assume that a lot of individuals that are in that situation are probably not a confrontational person, just by the nature of being in that situation. But I always tell people, you need to choose your discomfort, because, you are like, if you are overworked, you are uncomfortable. Okay. Like, you are clearly not comfortable. You are experiencing discomfort in this situation. So, advocating, like, I want you to choose your discomfort. Like, you're either going to have the discomfort of being like ticked off all the time because you're not getting paid what you should be getting paid, or you're being overworked or whatever, or you're going to choose the discomfort of having that conversation with a higher up. Like, when you said, like, it's not like those things are easy, but like, neither of those things are easy. It's just one of them requires more initiation and action on our part. And sometimes it's easier just to like kind of sit in the crap that you know, versus trying to like deal with the crap that you don't know,
Correct. Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yes, an inspiring, super inspiring story. And on the note, another reason I haven't like fully talked about it yet, because of this, I wanted to like save it, but Mandy, you also were able to get the 10-year public student loan forgiveness. Now, I want to preface this, everybody, I've talked about this on this show before, and I've talked about this on my Instagram before. It is January 21st, 2022. The current presidential people or whatever, they have made moves to make it easier to get these approved. There's lots of things that are changing very quickly. I've always kind of taken the stance of, don't go take out $1 billion worth of debt and just think, oh, like, I'll just get that paid off with the public student loan forgiveness, the 10-year one. Like, we don't want to do that. But making sure that you're making decisions responsibly and intentionally. And so I wanted to have Mandy on to talk about her experience, because she was actually able to get the forgiveness. And so can you tell us about how that went, the jobs that you had to get there? Because that's a question that I get a lot. And then like when did you get it? Within the last year, right?
I got it on June 24th, 2022. I'll never forget that date. No, 2021.
21? Okay. I was like, wait, that hasn't happened yet.
Sorry. See, I thought I would never get used to saying 2022, but I guess I am.
Now
but
that's
yeah,
all.
last June.
Yeah.
And the best part is I was on vacation. When I found out, I was like, oh, so nice. I was on the beach. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, it was awesome.
Okay.
So, as I said before, I didn't have a lot of help when it came to applying for colleges, financial aid. And I've always been a dreamer. I've always been a performer. I've always loved, being in the spotlight. So I went to a private Baptist college to do musical theater and dance. I auditioned for this dance team, made it. I was so happy, so excited. Didn't really understand all the loans I was taking out. And when I was looking back, I wish someone would have said, hey, you are broke. You can't go to this private college. Are you really going to take out that much loans? Because I did get scholarships and grants, but it was double the price of the local state university near my town. So and then those people in the financial aid office that are called student loan counselors, financial aid counselors. I don't like that title because not one of them told me, hey, you shouldn't take out the maximum amount. You don't need that much. They would say, hey, you can take out this much. And I would say, oh, okay, then I can pay my bills all semester, just pay my rent, my bills. Great. So I thought that was so awesome. But I because my parents didn't go through it, they didn't know how to teach me. I didn't really realize what was happening to me. By the time I graduated, because remember, I was in school for 8 years and I took out student loans to help, get me through. I had a mountain of debt. That was another time I had a panic attack when I saw, guess how much my payments were going to be a month? $800 or $900 a month.
That's a
so I started. It is. And so I lived in this crap apartment that was with me and my baby. And I was so excited to finally graduate and get, become a speech pathologist. I could buy a house, get a car. I couldn't, nothing. I can't even move out of this apartment. I'm not going to have any more money. I was just freaking out. So that's when I researched and found the public student loan forgiveness. That was in 2009. The program started in 2007. So it was just kind of getting going. So basically, I took a job at a 501c nonprofit outpatient clinic. And 501c clinics qualify. It has to be a public health, public school, or a nonprofit. So that qualified. After 6 years, I went full time at the schools for the kids' schedule, and then that also qualified. So I had all my employment. You have to get it certified, and every year you fill out a form, you send it in, and you just keep track until you get to the 120 payments. And that happened for me in June. And honestly, it's what caused me to finally take the leap I wanted to take with my private practice. I kind of was stuck. I didn't have a choice. To get the forgiveness, I had to work for a public entity. So once it came through, that's when I was like, okay, this is my sign. It's time. And honestly, there was so much controversy with this about people applying and never getting approved that it was scary for me. I honestly didn't think it was going to happen or they were going to get rid of it before, I got it. But like you said, now people are getting approved more easily, and they have, you can actually, if you didn't have the right kind of loan, they're giving you a chance to go back. So there's all kinds of options. I actually have a blog post on my blog all about this journey with all the links and all the steps. If you want to read through that, all you'd have to do is search Panda Speech student loan forgiveness and it'll pop up. But yeah, it was a dream come true because I feel like I was loan sharked by these financial aid counselors. That's why I hate that title. They didn't counsel me.
No. Did they work for the school that you went to?
Yeah. So the financial aid counselors at each university, because I went to 2 different universities.
So I'm wondering, that almost kind of seems like there's a conflict of interest there, because they're, especially if you were going to an undergrad that you really couldn't afford.
No,
they're not going to tell you that.
I was like, I get to go be a dancer at this college in the dance program and live my dreams. I mean, I had to do work study programs. I had to do all of that at that time. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, I guess. But really, you shouldn't put yourself in that much financial, strain and debt if you don't need to.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I wish I would have had a family member that said, okay, Mandy, this school is costing you $40,000 a year. Your financial aid, you're only getting 15 a year. So you're going to have to take out all this, I have a niece, she's going to be a speech therapist. I'm so excited. She actually, if you've ever met me at my conventions, she's almost 20. So she's working for me. So she was at ASHA with me at DC. So you'll see her around if you come to those with me. But anyways, she's a pole vaulter and a swimmer. She got a scholarship for $15,000 a year for pole vaulting at a private college. So we looked at it, the tuition was like $42,000 a year. I go, honey, this won't even cover a half. And she was like, oh, really? So you don't think I should take it? I'm like, absolutely not. So I got to kind of use my knowledge to help, the next generation of my family realize that it may sound fun to go pole vault over there, but, really in the long run, it's not worth it.
Yeah, and that was actually a follow-up question I was going to ask you was like, what would you tell someone else who was considering it, which I'm still going to ask it, but I'll just frame it in a different way. But I mean, I think that's just like, that's just so it. Like, it's not like loans are evil and private schools are evil. Like, never do it. Like, it's not like that, but it's like, why? Right. I mean, I think you said it perfectly. Why put yourself in that much debt if it's not necessary? And I think just like what you said, it was just like, you just didn't know. Like, we're 18.
I had no clue.
We're stupid. Like, we just didn't know.
I just wanted to dance.
Yes. Like because it's funny. Like, I remember I got a $13,000 scholarship to the school I went my freshman year, which is a private school. I switched to a public school for my sophomore to my senior year undergrad because it was way cheaper. But like, I literally had that same thought process. I was like, oh, they gave me $13,000. Oh, that's so cool. Without seeing that the tuition was like $35,000. It's like, that don't even cover half, boo-boo. Like, like,
and I hated having to tell her because she was so excited. This coach from McMurray called me. Oh, McMurray was the private school in Abilene, Texas. And it's a great college. I actually went to Hardin-Simmons in Abilene. And so I loved that. And the ACU is there. It's a really good school if you can afford it, if you get, the proper financial aid. But it was hard to burst her bubble. But when I kind of showed her the loans and how she's pretty smart. So she's like, oh, heck no, I don't have to pay all that back. I said, if you go here, you won't even have to take out a loan because she qualified for, I think it was like the tuition reimbursement program. So she had such a good deal and she wouldn't have got any of that if she went to private. And so I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to dog private schools because some people, that's the path they needed to go. And actually it was really good for me because we had curfews, no boys in the room. I needed that structure because I was such a goody two-shoe in high school that I don't think I would have thrived in a giant party school or a public university where there weren't any rules. I love that there were rules.
Like,
it helped me. I needed them. It made me feel comfortable. I needed someone saying, you better be in by 11 and no boys in your room. Like, I needed that,
And I think that's why a lot of people do pick a private school, which is not a bad thing. Like, I kind of look at it like, if you're just shopping for, I mean, it's not the same as like, shopping for a bag, like a Louis Vuitton bag is not a bad thing. It's not an evil thing. It's an expensive thing. And like actually the last podcast I recorded with one of my, it was a girl, a woman that I went to grad school with. She still has like her Louis Vuitton. She was like 30 something years old when she had a grad school. She had that big Louis Vuitton bag, that big tote that, I mean, I think 10 years ago it was like $1,000.
Sure.
It still was in like pristine condition. Like, it's, it's a great bag. It lasts a long time. It fits what you need, but it's like, is that worth going in? Is that worth like burdening yourself with debt? Like if you can afford it, that's great. Like the bag isn't evil. You're not evil.
Right.
It's in reference to your financial world, does this make sense?
Right. And a lot of 18-year-olds are not thinking down the road. They're just not.
No, I was not thinking about that, girl. I was in my undergrad. I did my freshman year in New Orleans. I'll put it that way.
I bet you had a fun time.
I did, but I probably needed a little bit more rules. I probably should have gone where you went.
We had to be at chapel Tuesday, Thursday at 8 a.m. If you didn't swipe your card, you wouldn't get your course credit at the end of the semester. So I mean, I went to chapel every Tuesday and Thursday.
Yeah, I probably needed that. Well, and so now I know you kind of talked about like the advice that you were giving your you said, was it your niece, or is that?
Yes, my niece. Yeah.
But what would you say to someone, because I get these questions a lot, for someone who is like wants to be an SLP, they're in undergrad, they're looking at grad programs, which we know some grad programs can be very expensive. I looked at one that was $52,000 a year. That was not tuition. I mean, that was not room and board. Like that was tuition, books. Like that was not room and board. And but they're kind of thinking, oh well, I can go to my state school, I can go to this flossy fancy school, and well, if I go there, I'll just get the public student loan forgiveness. Having been through all that, what would you say to that person?
I mean, if there is a certain reason why they're looking at the more expensive program, is there a professor or are they doing some research in an area that you have like strong feelings about, and like specializing in, like voice or fluency or whatever, or if it's, world renowned for their dysphagia program, that would be the only reason why I would even consider going to the more expensive school. But if it's just you're wanting to go and get your, generalist speech therapy degree, like, most of us have, I would apply to as many state and local schools as possible. I mean, after you graduate and that student loan bill gets put on you, it stays here. It'll be on you, and you don't want. For the people listening, I'm pointing to my shoulders. It stays on your shoulders, and it doesn't leave, and it's always there. Every time you buy a house, buy a car, apply for a credit card, it's on that report, and it looks bad. So I would suggest not making it as big, unless, like I said, there was a specific reason.
Yeah, and I think I've been very much like, there's definitely a camp that's like, never take out student loans, they're evil. But I also recognize that's just not realistic for a lot of us. It's just not.
Right.
But like one thing I've advocated for, like in one of the all the things money in grad school events we did, I said like take out the minimum amount possible. Like
yes,
you need to eat, you need to live not where you're hearing gunshots in the middle of the night, and you need to go to class. Like we're not buying, we're not getting waiter every night or 3 or 4 times a week with our student loan money. Like it's just not not a good, you can do that after you graduate, whenever you can actually afford it and you can actually pay for it. It's not, it's not like you want to do that. I'm not saying live like this forever, but it's just grad school is like a hustle season of life. It's just that's just how it is. Like, I mean, whether student loans or not, I mean, you hustling in grad school. You hustled in grad school. Yes. You definitely did. Yes.
Oh, well, my poor like cohorts, people in my cohort. Sorry, that sounded weird. So I saw like 3 graduate. I would start and then they would graduate ahead of me, and then another group. So I was with like a bunch of different ones, which was kind of weird. Most people stay with the same group, but they all did it full time and just passed me by, and I'd be like, okay, bye. I'm not like the mom in the back. Okay, good luck. Anyways, so when we would have class projects, I'm like, we're going to have to come to my house after my baby goes to sleep, guys. No other choice. Sorry. And I remember this one assignment for one of my evaluation classes. We had to record each other giving the like self or castle, one being the student, one being the SLP, and we had to switch roles. We had to record it. And so I was feeling really like tired and snarky. So I basically sealed out right away, and he had made us redo it. I was like, but wait, it's sealing out right away. He's like, no, you need to get further in there, Amanda. That's, I was like, oh, fine. So I had to redo it.
I love how you were like, I was feeling tired and snarky.
I was. And then you know what? I had to get my CPR renewed that year for one of my clinical placements. And I tried the same thing but I do it somewhat for comedy. So you know how you have to, the very first step of CPR, I know all y'all have probably done this. You have to like observe the scene, make sure it's safe. And then you have to call to the person, are you okay? Can you hear me? So when it was my turn to do it, I went up and I looked around. I said, sir, are you okay? Oh, guys, he's fine. He was just sleeping. No problem. And then I just went back and got in line, expecting it to be like, everyone laughing, not one laugh. Nobody thought it was hilarious. And I'm just like laughing at myself. And it was, I don't know. I guess I think thank you. See, that is the right reaction. She is laughing.
Wow.
Nobody was impressed. Nobody was impressed with me. Probably because I was making it take longer, I'm guessing, but whatever.
We've all had that moment when we were that girl. We've all had that moment.
Yeah.
We've all had that moment. But I think I'm going to skip that. I was feeling tired and snarky. So, and like start my stories out like that. I think I'm going to skip, if that's okay.
I always so my old clinical director, she's not there anymore, and we're still, friends now. I always say, thank you so much for putting up with me. I know but my babysitter, she put up with me and just was so gracious with me. I always tell her every time I see her, I'm like, I love you. Because she really gave me the chance, where some programs, they don't allow flexibility in their schedule, their coursework. And I was lucky to find that. But I know they were all sick of me. I know they were.
You were probably famous because you were there for so long.
Yeah.
Everyone, I mean, obviously the professors know most of us because a grad cohort is not that large, but I'm sure you were like the famous student.
Yeah, I'm sure every semester, she's still here. Why is she still there in the back? I always sat in the back because I was too tired to be the one in the front, And so I would find all the moms. There'd be like one other mom in every group. And I'd be like, okay, we belong back here, girl. Come on, come with me.
You have like spit up on your shirt and you're like, I got you, girl.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. I totally get it.
So, okay, I want to tell a story about, I hope my old professor isn't watching because I got a good grade on this assignment. We were to make, I can't remember it was what class. I think it was articulation therapy, something. We had to come with an articulation activity, and we had to demonstrate it for the class. And I'm walking up the stairs and my friend goes, hey, what are you doing for your assignment? I go, what assignment? She goes, your articulation assignment. I was like, oh. So I ran to my car. My son had a little beanbag crab and I had an artic deck. So I grabbed those two things. I went up and I said, okay, here's my articulation. This is a very engaging activity. You line up articulation cards on the floor, you throw the crab, whichever one it lands on, you practice. You repeat until, you get 100 trials. I said, it's very engaging. Kids love it. I got a 100 on that assignment. Thank you very much.
But you know what's funny about that? That's literally how all of us do prepare for therapy. Let's just grab, I do home visits. I open up the trunk and I'm like, oh, there's the farm. Let's figure that out today.
Yeah.
Or look, that's the bubble machine. It's nice outside. All right, let's go.
There were girls who had rolled up laminated carpets, they made out of construction paper with footsteps and all this intricate stuff. I mean, in my crab toss artic, it was, I got the same grade. So
I mean, I like that. I don't really do, now that I think about it, I really don't do that much artic therapy anymore. But yeah, that's a great idea. And it's low maintenance, low setup. Girl, I got you. I got you. Well, maybe I want to be sure that I am respectful of your time. We've definitely had lots of great stories on this episode and even more laughs, which has been fabulous. But before I release you from the clutches of the SpeechGoods podcast interview, are there any like last words that you want to say to people listening out there, especially someone who is just feeling very discouraged and feeling like everything's kind of going against them right now? Is there anything that you would want to tell them, just especially with everything that you've experienced?
Yeah, I think that's kind of like my mission with the stuff I share. It's if you're going through a tough problem, just don't give up. Keep going. Always put one, foot in front of the other. Even if you have to do it in a different way than others, that's okay. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do it, because I had that. I had a lot of people say it's going to be too tough. You're not going to be able to do it. And just have a goal and decide, no matter what, that I'm going to get to that. I mean, I'm not going to tell you my life was super easy. Obviously you heard it, but I had a whole lot of other things happen in my life, and I just never let the end goal change. So yeah, it took, I had to take different paths to get there, but I was determined. So if you are in that situation, or if you're a single mom thinking you can't handle grad school, or if you're in grad school right now thinking you want to quit, or you're discouraged because you're applying to grad programs and can't get in, just keep going if that's what you want for your life. And also, don't take out a mountain of student loan debt and have a panic attack like me.
Yeah, they said, yeah, especially the last part. Oh yeah. But yeah, if you really know what you want, and I always encourage people, like, make sure this is what you actually want. Like, I think a lot of us, we just kind of stumble. We can stumble into things, or like, oh, well, this was always the plan, so I'm going to do it. Which
right.
That's okay. But when, life is going to happen, like fit's going to hit the shan, people are going to tell you that you're not smart enough. Like, it's going to happen. It's not about if, it's really about when and where you're going to be when it does happen. And so if you have a really clear picture of what your goals are and why you want to get there, I mean, I think for you, something I talk about a lot when I talk about people's finances, whether it's you're paying off debt or you're getting organized, is you got to have a why. And I think for you, I mean, you had a really big why. Like, you had like a human staring at you being like, hey, are you going to provide a quality life for me? Like, that's a big why. Having your son like staring back at you. And I think we all need to find, I mean, honestly, I think your children are probably, it's hard to find a bigger why than than your children. But if you don't have those yet, if you haven't procreated yet, find your why, like whatever it is, because willpower is not an infinite resource. It's not, it's never meant to be, but keeping in mind like that this is what you actually want. And sometimes you can get like Mandy, if you get a little tired, just get a little snarky. It'll be fun.
Yeah, a little snarky.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming. This has been an amazing chat. And hopefully maybe we'll have you on again soon when you have your thing that's coming out for school SLPs, which she has her freebie. Tell us a little bit about your freebie and where they can find you, like your email list and all that stuff before we let you go.
Sure. So I have a checklist for evaluations, and I have 3 different ones in this freebie. It's a checklist for school-based SLPs doing initials, evals, and then also reevaluations, and then also clinic-based. And I base them off of several different, I took resources from different states and different clinics and tried to make a really good checklist of stuff you need to remember, just those little things that you sometimes forget. So you can get that freebie by signing up for my newsletter. The link should be somewhere in the podcast notes. I don't know what you call it.
It'll be in the show notes. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be in the description if you're watching on YouTube.
Okay, gotcha. I guess I really didn't realize that it was going to be on YouTube, so sorry for any of my weird faces.
Girl, have you looked at my face this whole time? Like, always, I'm gonna have so many wrinkles because I'm always just like all the time. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. And I give out a ton of other freebies. being on my newsletter is the best way to keep informed of stuff I have going on. I love making checklists for SLPs. And if you're new, they're really handy to have. And then I have over 90 freebies on my TPT store. So if you want some, free downloads to go use in therapy, go check those out as well.
Yes. And all of her information, you can find her website, blog, Instagram, all that stuff, TPT store, all that stuff is going to be in the show notes. So if you're not already following her or looking, familiar with her stuff, definitely go check her out. But thank you so much, Mandy, for coming on. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to hear more no fluff, getting the dang thing done stuff from myself, SLPs, be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or pledge a small amount on patreon.com/SpeechGoods. If you found this content valuable, please share it with others so we can get this message out there. And if you haven't already, join us on Instagram. Handle is @SpeechGoods. See you there.